First question is that, hey Akshat, I don't have enough money to study abroad and I can't put up that initial investment. Can I still go abroad? The answer is yes. Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. So today we are going to discuss the difference between MBA in India and MBA abroad. Now this is one of the most requested videos on this channel, so I thought that I'll make an elaborate video on this topic. Please watch this video till the very end because I'm going to discuss frequently asked questions related to studying abroad, and I will cover the points around scholarships and how Indian students can go and study abroad on full scholarships. So let's get this video started. So essentially, there are 4 things that I would like to cover on this video. First, I'm going to cover the global brand value and rankings of Indian MBA versus MBAs abroad. Second, I'm going to comment and analyze return on investment, that how much money is spent by studying in India and what is the return from it, vis-a-vis when you go abroad and study, what is the cost investment ratio looks like. Then we are going to discuss typical career progressions if you're studying in India versus abroad. And finally, we are going to take a look at some miscellaneous factors like quality of education, quality of teachers, quality of research, quality of international network. So this will help you make a choice whether you should be investing your time pursuing an Indian MBA versus should you go abroad and then pursue your MBA. Now, if we talk about the career progression of an Indian MBA versus MBA abroad, we can understand this in 2 ways. First and foremost, we can take a look at the short-term career progression, which typically means that, hey, how your career develops in the short term once you have graduated from an MBA program. Now, if you understand the Indian scenario, if you're graduating from top tier MBA programs in India like ISB or top 3 IIMs, then the career progression is generally very strong. You work with top tier consulting firms or you work with product managers at tech companies. So the career progression in the short term is very strong. But there are a few things that you need to note here. First and foremost, if you are interested in working in finance, then unfortunately, given the Indian economy, there are not too many front-end finance jobs. So even if you graduate from top-notch MBA programs in India, the chances are that you might not get top jobs in the finance domains. The second point is that your short-term career becomes extremely India-centric and you would end up doing majority of your projects in India. Now this lack of international exposure can actually hurt your long-term career progression. And this is the reason why I typically say that, hey, if you have the option of going abroad and pursuing your MBA, you should do it. Now, it's just not my opinion. This is based on facts. If you analyze the career paths of big CEOs, for example, take the example of Indra Nooyi. She graduated from IIM Calcutta and she ended up pursuing another MBA from Yale. If you take a look at Sundar Pichai, he ended up doing an MBA from outside India. If you take a look at Satya Nadella, he did an MBA from outside India. You might say that, hey Akshat, you know what, you're just handpicking examples. There are hundreds of examples of CEOs who have graduated from Indian colleges and their career is going well. And I agree. But there is a more systemic issue that I would like to point here, and hopefully you will understand my perspective. The perspective is very simple that, for example, any Fortune 500 company would want to have a leader who has an international orientation, because these days the businesses have become extremely global in nature. So whether you name Apple CEO or you name Google CEO or you name Microsoft CEO, all the CEOs have extensive international orientation. So this is something that is getting increasingly rewarded in the corporate world. This is the reason why I feel that a foreign MBA is much more stronger compared to an Indian MBA, especially if you want to work in top echelon of corporate firms in a leadership position. Now again, speaking from a personal example, every year I get to help several candidates who have graduated from top tier Indian programs like IIM Calcutta, IIM Bangalore and Ahmedabad, and they end up pursuing another MBA. So I have personally assisted such people getting into top tier MBA programs abroad such as INSEAD, LBS, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton. And one of the primary reasons why they pursue another MBA abroad is to get more international exposure and orientation. Now, if I ask you a very simple question, which MBA college in the world would you like to study? Let's imagine that there are no barriers to entry and you don't have to take any exam in the world. Please type out your answer. I am sure that many of you would have quoted Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, INSEAD, LBS. So in terms of brand value and recall value, these schools have massive brand value. Now this is just not my opinion. These are actually backed by data and figures. So I'm putting up the Financial Times rankings on your screen and you can take a look. This clearly indicates that INSEAD and London Business School are ranked 1 and 2 in terms of financial rankings. Now, if we try to figure out where do Indian colleges place in this global rankings list, you can easily see that ISB has been ranked 23rd and IIM Bangalore has been ranked around 35th. So you can clearly see that none of the Indian colleges feature in the top 20 of the world rankings. Now you might say that, hey Akshat, you know what, I don't care about rankings. As long as a school is ranked very highly in India, that is what I care more about. And to tell you the truth, my neighbors know more about IIM Ahmedabad than INSEAD. Now I agree with that argument, but here is what you need to know. Your neighbors know more about IIM Ahmedabad or ISB in India because they have grown up in India and they probably read a lot of newspaper and consume a lot of media news, which keep focusing on India and India-centric news, and therefore they get to know about elite institutions only in India. But if you expand your horizon and if you look at things from a global viewpoint, you will quickly start realizing that top global brands like INSEAD, London Business School, Wharton, Harvard, Stanford, these are massive in their outlook, and at a world level, people understand these brands more compared to India-centric brands. For example, your neighbors might not know who Lionel Messi is. They would rather know a new cricketer who is playing for the Indian cricket team. That does not mean that the Indian cricketer is a much bigger sports person than Lionel Messi, right? That is how you need to analyze the brand value deficit that Indian colleges unfortunately have. Now, just a very quick disclaimer here that I am not trying to spread hate about Indian colleges here. I am simply giving out facts to you. So I hope that you would take this in the right spirit. Now let's move on to the next section and let's try to analyze the return on investment, which is one of the most debated things for Indian colleges versus colleges abroad. Alright, so let's now try to analyze the return on investment of studying abroad and doing an MBA abroad versus doing an MBA in India. Now this is a massive factor, and I can't tell you how many times people get this factor incorrectly. So first and foremost, you must not only look at the investment side, you must also look at the return side, right? Therefore, the matrix is called as ROI, return on investment, right? Many a times we just look at the overall investment that will be required and we just assume that, hey, studying abroad is really bad because the investment is so high. But you must also compute the return. So let me do this in context of IIM Ahmedabad, Wharton and ISB. So these are three sample cases that I will take. So let's first move on to the investment side. On the investment side, we have something called as palpable investment. Now if you go on IIM Ahmedabad's website, the fees for IIM Ahmedabad will be clearly written. Same will be the case at Wharton. Same will be the case at ISB. So this fees, for example, at IIM Ahmedabad is close to 24 lakhs. Right? At Wharton, it's $170,000, right? At ISB, it will be 42 lakhs approximately, right? So that's the investment amount required. So this is very easy to compute, right? Now, you must also compute the investment from an opportunity cost perspective. Now, let me explain this. For example, when you start preparing for CAT, now if you don't end up getting a 99.xx percentile, can you get into IIM Ahmedabad? Majority of us can't, right? So if you don't have a 99.xx percentile on CAT, you won't make it to a top 3 IIM. That is a reality for majority of the candidates. So you will have to take a drop year or delay your plans of doing an MBA, etc., and that features into your opportunity cost, right? On the flip side, if you want to go and study at Wharton, you don't need to leave your job. You can take GMAT, and on the GMAT, if you have a 720, 730 plus, which equates to 92nd percentile plus score, you can still make it to Wharton. Now, of course, there are multiple other factors, but in order to get into Wharton, you don't need to put your life on hold or take a drop year to prepare for GMAT. Now, this is something that people prepare along with their full-time job. Now, many of you might comment that, hey, Akshat, people don't get into Wharton with 720, 730. Please go and check the description box. I'll link some profiles of people whom I have helped who made it to Wharton with a 720. So this statistic is actually correct. You can go and check for yourself. Now that is how you will need to do the investment side of analysis. Now there are certain things that I'm not incorporating. For example, the GMAT exam is more expensive. You might have to spend a little bit of money in terms of preparation. I'm not taking those minuscule factor into the mix because that will anyways get featured on the investment side. When you're spending 45 lakhs going to ISB or when you're spending close to 1 crore going to Wharton, so those minuscule amount in terms of application fees should not be featured into this analysis. Now moving on to the return side. Now this is very interesting. Now I will link a couple of placement reports. I am deliberately picking 2018 data. The reason is very simple, that there was no coronavirus. The data reports are very clean from all these institutes. So I'll compare those data reports. Now here you will observe that 1/3 class at IIM Ahmedabad went into consulting. So I'm picking up the consulting data. Why? Because at IIM Ahmedabad, approximately 30% of the class went into consulting. Similarly at Wharton, approximately 30-35% of the class went into consulting. So it becomes a comparative figure. And this is the highest placing industry for both both IIM Ahmedabad and Wharton. Now here, first and foremost, you will observe from IIM Ahmedabad's data that the average salary is approximately 24 lakhs, right? And the total fees for IIM Ahmedabad back in 2018 was approximately 22 lakhs, right? So what can we conclude? We can conclude that, hey, if you go to IIM Ahmedabad and if you graduate, you earn the money in 1 year and then your loans are paid off, right? So it essentially takes 1 year to recoup your investment. Again, I'm simplifying the calculations from a comparative perspective. Now let's do the analysis for Wharton. Now let's look at the 2018 data for Wharton. Again, you will see that approximately 35% of the class went into consulting. The average expense at Wharton is 170,000 US dollars. And what is the base pay in consulting? It's 140,000 US dollars. So approximately from Wharton, the time period or that payback period becomes 1.5 years roughly, right? But a very important point to note here is that the compensation, the 24 lakhs compensation that I was talking about at IIM Ahmedabad, that is all cash compensation, right? So that is literally the CTC, right? But at Wharton, that is the base pay. So net it will stay the same, right? So that is an important point of consideration because there will be at least a 20% difference between your CTC and your base pay. Now keeping even that aside, now this is where people miss doing the analysis, right? People just assume that, hey, I'm going to Wharton, I'm spending 170k, I'm earning 140k. So not a good deal. I would rather go to an institute where I'll have to go the least amount of money. What you need to compute is that you need to ask yourself a simple question that what is the cash flows that you will get throughout your career. What I mean by that is very simple, that by the time you graduate from Wharton, maybe you will be 28, 29. You will still have good 30, 35 years of career ahead of you, right? Now in 1 year, whether you go to IIM Ahmedabad or whether you go to Wharton, you are breaking even in terms of average salary. Now what happens from year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 onwards? At Wharton, you are making 140k per year. At IIM Ahmedabad, you are making 25 lakhs per year. Now many of you would comment that, hey, there is purchasing power parity, this, that. I agree. Now again, you need to understand the fact that when you work abroad, you save in dollars and resultantly that pool grows bigger every year. So you need to do that computation from an entire career viewpoint very, very closely. Now you might say that, Akshat, your analysis is completely off because you are comparing Wharton with IIM Ahmedabad, right? People go to Wharton with 3-5 years of experience and people go to IIM Ahmedabad as freshers or less than 2 years of experience. So I have 2 points there. So first and foremost, you must read about deferred MBA option. Now Wharton including comes under that deferred MBA program option and they take candidates who are in the final year of their undergrad degree and they have the option of starting their MBA program 2 years after they graduate. So essentially it is somewhat comparable. That's one. Second point. So let's assume that Wharton and IIM Ahmedabad are not comparable. So now let me compare Wharton with ISB. Now at ISB, I just need to give you 2 figures. One is that the investment amount at ISB is 42 lakhs. The return or the salary that you get post ISB is somewhere close to 28 lakhs on an average. That is the CTC, right? So it's somewhat comparable to IIM Ahmedabad to begin with, right? After years of experience. So in summary, what I'm trying to say is the following. So number one, if you go to an MBA program abroad, for example, Wharton, your initial investment amount is going to be high. Agree. Number two, your ROI by studying abroad is much higher compared to an Indian MBA, be it IIM Ahmedabad or be it ISB. That's 2. Third, if you pick 1-year MBA programs like INSEAD, Oxford, Cambridge, the ROI becomes even more positive and much more impressive because the investment amount goes down massively. For example, when I studied at INSEAD, the total expense was 70 lakhs. I went on substantial scholarship. That's a separate video that I'll do. But the bottom line that I want to project here is that when you do this ROI computation, you must do that very, very thoroughly by analyzing all the factors, how it's going to impact your career. So now let's compare Indian MBA with an MBA abroad from a miscellaneous factors point of view. So first, let's compare pedagogy. Now, when you're studying in India, the teaching style and teaching orientation has become much more practical over the years. But if you compare it to INSEAD, Wharton, Harvard, these type of schools, the pedagogy is still not very innovative. For example, in Harvard, you have something called as Harvard Business Style of Teaching. Now, that pedagogy has been in existence for the last several years, and Harvard has specialized in terms of delivering programs accordingly. Similarly, INSEAD is known for delivering a 1-year MBA format, which it has perfected over the last several years. Now, a regular MBA program in India cannot be compared to this because of the fact that Indian MBA programs just do not have enough experience. That is point one. Also, speaking from a personal experience, so when I went to INSEAD, there were approximately people from 60 nationalities in my class. So the level of learning that you would have and the level of exposure that you will get, that would be unparalleled, because a big part of an MBA curriculum is learning from your peers and classmates. Now, while I can't comment on the quality of the faculty at schools like ISB, IIMs versus Wharton and INSEAD, I would leave you with a couple of facts here. For example, when you go and study at Chicago Booth, you will have Dr. Raghuram Rajan teaching you, right? So that's a very impressive fact, that you actually get to study from professors like Dr. Rajan. If you go to Wharton, you will get to study from professors like Adam Grant, who has written massive number of books. If you go to INSEAD, you will have Dr. Chan Kim, who is the father of Blue Ocean Strategy. So these type of professors can add a massive value in terms of your learning experience. Now this brings me to the final section of this video, and I will answer two very important questions here. First question is that, hey Akshat, I don't have enough money to study abroad and I can't put up that initial investment. Can I still go abroad? The answer is yes. So please explore an option called as Prodigy Finance. They give non-collateralized loans up to 80% of the investment amount. So if you have approximately 10 to 15 lakhs in savings, there is a very good chance that you will be able to finance your foreign MBA. That is one. Now the second point is that, hey Akshat, can I get enough scholarships to study abroad? The answer is absolutely yes. I have personally supported two people who got into Oxford with 100% scholarship. So there was no money that they paid to study and graduate from Oxford. They just had to take care of living expenses, and the entire MBA was funded. The reason why that happens is that these big universities, be it Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, Oxford, Cambridge, they have very big endowment fund. So they are able to secure these sponsorships from their alums and pass it on to applicants. Now there are many other programs that offer a lot of scholarship. For example, Yale School of Management offers 5 scholarships to Indians specifically, which ranges from 50% to 100% of the entire amount. There is Darden, which is again a top 12 ranked MBA program in the US that gives up to 100% scholarships to Indians. So essentially there are multiple options that you can explore if you are looking to study abroad. If you have any questions around scholarship, please type it out in the comment. I will personally answer those. But the bottom line that I wanted to leave you with is that there are substantial scholarship options that you should go and explore. Don't discard the study abroad option just thinking that, hey, it is just super expensive. No, there are multiple avenues to finance your MBA. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and a like and a comment. It would really mean a lot to me, and do let me know in the comments what next video you would like me to shoot.